Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending today's Worksite Wellness Lunch and Learn. As we begin, please note that we offer closed captioning for this event. For captioning in English, click the CC button at the bottom of your screen, or if you'd like captioning in Spanish, click the link in the chat. The topics of gut health, probiotics, and prebiotics have skyrocketed in popularity in the past decade. But what exactly are probiotics and prebiotics? And what's the best way to obtain them? That's what we're about to find out. Following the presentation, our speaker, Katie Godin, will show us how to make a prebiotic-rich salad, great for pairing with a protein of choice or to be eaten on its own. So be sure to stay through the end of the webinar. Katie is a registered dietitian who has been practicing for over 16 years. She focuses on helping individuals improve their knowledge and relationship with food and meet their personal health goals. Lifestyle Medical Centers is an in-network nutrition counseling service. For those enrolled in the state health plan, virtual and in-person visits are covered at 100% for in-network providers. We have dietitians across the state. To find one near you, log into your state health plan portal, which is listed on this slide. As a reminder, everyone who registered for this event will receive a recording of today's presentation as well as the recipe. To find past Lunch and Learn recordings or see what's coming up, visit our website at oshr.nc.gov/wellness-webinars. During the presentation, you can submit questions through the Q&A, and members of our NC Flex team will help answer them. Additionally, Katie will save a few minutes at the end of the presentation to conquer any questions we're unable to get to. Now let's welcome Katie and Lunch and Learn.
Thank you, Sierra. Hey, everybody. Happy summer. It is officially here, 100%. You can feel it the past week and this week, my goodness. So hopefully it'll cool down a little bit, but I am happy for some warmer weather. I do prefer it to the cold. However, let's get into today's topic. So I know this is a really popular one, and as Sierra mentioned, it's really gained a lot of popularity over the years, and everyone is kind of wondering how to obtain a healthy gut. What does that mean? So today we're going to talk about gut health, specifically maintaining a healthy gut microbiome, and really kind of honing in on prebiotics and probiotics. So hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll understand what both of those things are and how to maybe get a little bit more of them in your diet. So as Sierra mentioned, I'm a registered dietitian. I've been with Lifestyle Medical Centers for about 6 years now. We have such an individualized approach with our counseling style. We have a lot of dietitians, very versatile, to help you meet your personal health goals. We are in network with Blue Cross Blue Shield. We do offer virtual and in-person at this point. So if you've been thinking about it, you've been doing these lunch and learns for a while, and you've been thinking about, hey, I would love to maybe take that next step, please give our office a call. We would love to chat with you more about that. All right, guys, let's get started. So the title of that presentation had a big word in there, okay? Microbiome. Maybe you've heard this, maybe you're not quite sure exactly what that means, what that is. So let's talk about that really quickly. So your microbiome is basically a collection of all microbes, things like bacteria, fungi, viruses, even their genes. It can get very complicated when you start talking about it like that. But they naturally live on our bodies, but of course they live inside of our bodies as well, specifically in our gut. Maybe you guys didn't realize this, but 99% of the bacteria in our body is actually really good for us. And one thing that I'm hopeful after, this presentation, like I was saying before, is that you really understand how to improve that balance of good bacteria in your gut. And, there's things we have control over, there's things that we don't. So we're going to really hone in on those things that we do have control over when it comes to making those changes. This is always very fascinating to me. And maybe you guys have heard this before, maybe not, but everyone's microbiome is completely unique to them. All of the different bacteria and microbes that live inside of us, it's not just, it's very individualized, right? So we don't all have the same makeup. And a baby's first exposure to bacteria and how that is basically determined, what you start off with in life, is occurs during childbirth. So the genetic side of things plays a big role. What else determines kind of how our microbiome is made up of? There's, of course, diet and lifestyle. That's a big one. We're going to talk about that today. That's what we have control over, right? The genetic side of things, we don't have control over. Other things that can kind of affect it are just the environment in which you live in. That can be play a role for individuals. Also medications. There's different factors, yes, but today we're really going to focus on the diet and lifestyle part of things. Okay, so let's talk briefly about what role the microbiome plays. All right, so it does a lot of different things. And again, it could be broken up into, I think, 1,000 different presentations. I'm going to try to just keep it as simple as possible here. But I just think that it's important that you understand the type of role that this microbiome plays and how important it is for us to take care of it. The first thing that it does is it helps with digestion and nutrient absorption. So essentially, this good bacteria that lives inside of you helps with the production of these enzymes, which are responsible for breaking down food, helps with the digestion of the food. And then it helps to release these nutrients within the bloodstream, which is what's the responsibility of aiding with the absorption of those nutrients. So of course, that's a big deal. And it's important that we are aware that there's certain foods we can eat that really help to promote that good bacteria, which we'll talk about in just a second. Immune system regulation, protection against pathogens. Essentially this good bacteria helps with the prevention of the buildup of harmful substances, which can in turn, when our body is allowing these harmful substances to get into our bloodstream, that's what can basically turn into certain disorders such as allergies, autoimmune diseases, just overall inflammation. And we'll talk a little bit about the connection between gut imbalance or microbe imbalance and disease and chronic conditions in just a second. But essentially having that good balance of healthy gut bacteria is protecting you from that. The synthesis of vitamins. So certain vitamins, your gut bacteria is responsible for producing from food, specifically vitamin K and B vitamins, if you really want to get down and kind of understand exactly here. But that's an important role. Your gut is doing all of these things. And I'm sure you guys are sitting here thinking, wow, this is a lot. But I think it's important that you realize kind of how important us keeping our gut healthy is for us. Neurotransmitter production. So these are little chemical messengers. 2 examples, maybe you've heard them before: dopamine, serotonin. These are really important for mood regulation, just general behavior and mood disorders. Our good bacteria is responsible for producing these. And so we need these neurotransmitters to help keep our mental health where we would like it to be, and our mood regulated. Metabolism and weight regulation. Yes, the bacteria in our gut do play a role in our metabolic health. There is a really interesting documentary that's out right now, and maybe you guys have heard of it, maybe not, but I highly recommend it. It's just a little over an hour. It's called Hack Your Health. It's on Netflix. I feel that it is such a great kind of description of how important our microbiome is for us, what things affect it and how we can improve it. And the way that they, kind of explain it, I feel like it's just really easy to understand. I even think it would be really good I have a middle schooler who's 12. I think it would be really good for him. He would definitely be able to understand it. But anyway, one thing that kind of stands out, and I'll mention it again in this presentation, one thing that stood out to me is just one of the most important things that you can do for yourself is to have a variety of these types of helpful foods in your diet. And so that's one thing that I really like to encourage for people when they come and see me, is to just have a variety of fruits and vegetables. I love to just start there. They specifically mention at least 20 different types of fruits and vegetables within a week. And I get that might sound like a lot. And even to my ears, I was like, oh my, do I do that? But when you start jotting down things that you eat throughout the week, you probably are doing better than you think. But anyway, yes, getting this variety of nutrients in your gut is going to be one of the ways that you can help improve the balance here. And we'll talk about that more in a second. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention is one of the roles it does is it maintains the intestinal barrier function. So what exactly does that mean? So basically your microbiome is helping to prevent, as I mentioned before, harmful substances into the bloodstream. And when we disrupt this balance of good bacteria, it can compromise this intestinal barrier, which is helpful for keeping things like harmful substances out of the picture. So when we, don't have that good balance, it can compromise that function. And you've heard me mention that quite a bit, just in this slide alone, talking about the imbalance of your good bacteria. What contributes to this imbalance, right? Because that's what we want to work on. We want to work on having a better balance of good to bad, right? So things that contribute to the imbalance and basically cause a term called dysbiosis, which you'll see here in the next slide. I'll go ahead and turn it to that. Things like your diet being high in sugar, high in processed sugars, I should elaborate, high in saturated fat, high in sodium, so low in fiber. These are ways that we're not really promoting the growth and the maintenance of this good bacteria in our gut. Medications, sometimes we have control over medications, sometimes not. So that's one of those things where I say, look, we have to kind of feel out what's medically necessary. But I always challenge people to talk to your doctors about the necessity of certain medications. Are there alternatives? And kind of going over what that might look like for you down the road. Are there any ways that we can kind of, in the back of your head, hey, I don't want to be on this long term. What are some things that I can do otherwise? And sometimes you don't have control over that, right? But it is a conversation that you have. Stress, lack of sleep, lack of exercise. These are all things that are contributing to that dysbiosis or that imbalance of your gut microbiome. And in turn, we're seeing this link between the imbalance of our gut microbiome and these disease and chronic conditions you see on this slide. So things like IBS, inflammatory bowel disease, which Crohn's disease would be an example of that. Maybe you guys have heard of that. Type 2 diabetes, obesity, anxiety, depression. I was just speaking on these neurotransmitters that are so important for mood regulation and how our gut bacteria is responsible for that, for the production of those. Well, when we aren't producing these neurotransmitters that we need in the way that we need them, we are more likely to be affected by anxiety and depression, autoimmune disorders, and allergic diseases such as eczema and asthma. So it's really interesting when you kind of think about it on that level and how important it is to care and ask questions and think about ways in which we can protect and improve the way that our gut is and how healthy it is. Okay, so I mentioned briefly about things that negatively affect, but what are the things that positively affect the microbiome? This is what we're able to have more control over. So let's start there, okay? The first two things under dietary changes, that's what we're going to talk more about today. So we're going to specifically talk about fiber from prebiotic-rich foods. So the best way that I can explain prebiotics versus probiotics. Probiotics are the actual bacteria. These are the good guys. These are the things that are doing all of the work, and they're really important that we're having them, that we're getting these into our body, okay? The prebiotics is the food, the nourishment to keep these probiotics happy. And when we, keep them happy, they live more abundantly in our gut. So we need a combination of prebiotic and probiotic-rich foods. So when we think about these dietary changes that we can start doing, well, let's talk about fiber first. Let's talk about these prebiotic-rich foods. So these are foods like fruits and vegetables, beans, other legumes, nuts and seeds, certain grains, whole grains. These are these non-digestible fibers that feed that good bacteria. And we're going to get into details of exactly examples here of these prebiotic-rich foods. And then, of course, today I'm making a prebiotic salad so you guys can see a way to get in 3 or 4, I believe, different prebiotic-rich fibers just in one meal. All right. So adding more of those into your diet is a great first start. And then getting in fermented foods. This one I get can be a little bit trickier because maybe we don't love fermented foods. Maybe we don't like, maybe we don't eat dairy, maybe we don't like yogurt. There could be a lot of maybe setbacks for some people when it comes to the probiotic-rich foods. But finding a way to get some of these good, healthy gut bacteria into your body on a regular basis is really important. And maybe there are some things you've not tried before. Maybe there's some sneaky ways we can get it in there. Try to help people with stuff like that. Supplements we'll talk about at the end. I'm sure that might be, lots of questions around that. I'm not really going to go too in depth with supplements today, but I will go into a little bit of detail at the end on that. I definitely promote food first. Okay. Maybe you guys have gathered that from listening to my presentations over the years. I certainly always want to promote food first. It is the most effective way to get these into your gut, in the best way possible. And then also limiting those foods that are negatively affecting that microbiome. So it's mostly going to be those processed food, guys. And I mean, I get it. I talk to people about stuff like this all of the time. It isn't about completely never eating a processed food again. That is very unrealistic. However, I love to talk to people about ways in which we can add things to our day versus constantly thinking about, oh, well, I got to take that away. I got to take that away. I can't do that anymore. Forget this. That just feels very isolating. It feels overwhelming. It feels kind of just annoying. I don't know. There's a lot of emotions I'm sure you feel about things like that, taking away foods and things that you actually do really enjoy. You don't want to cut them out completely, but I do think that we need to be really intentional about what we can add to the picture. What are some things that we just feel like, oh, I don't like that. I'm never going to eat that. Well, is there a way that you've never tried it before? Could we try to feel that out? So I try to help people to be creative with things because I think it's just about that. It's about figuring out fun ways of eating some of these foods and exploring foods that maybe you've just not thought about before. Maybe you guys are hearing, you'll hear foods, me list them off in a second. Maybe you've never even tried them, never even thought about trying them. Well, that's why I'm here to help encourage that, right? So yeah, dietary changes is a big, big one because we do have control over that. We do have control over managing our stress. So chronic stress is very debilitating, and it's something that affects, I bet, every one of us in some way, some part of our lives, in some part of our lives. Basically, working on stress reducing strategies. These are things that we do help with at Lifestyle. We're not just working on the dietary changes. We're working on a lot of other things with people, clinicians and dietitians both. We work on stress management, sleep regimen. These are things that really do affect our gut, and we need to be aware of that. So doing just some simple stress reducing strategies, having some accountability for that. There's lots of other ways that you can manage stress, but figuring out what works best for you, because everyone has something that they may connect with when it comes to stress management strategies. So we like to explore that with people for sure in your consultations and in your visits with us. Getting adequate sleep. We do have control over this, but in some periods of life, we don't have as much, right? So I get it. It just kind of ebbs and flows throughout our life, how well we're sleeping. But I just challenge people to say, okay, there's probably 1 or 2 ways that we can work on better sleep hygiene. What can that be? Is that turning the screens off, 15 to 20 minutes earlier than we normally do, maybe trying to read before bed. Lots of different things. So we work with people on that too. Regular exercise, we talk about exercise a lot. We want people to understand that the importance of having just exercise alone for helping with sleep and stress. That is something that is a thing. They're all connected, these changes that we're making. But there's research showing that just more physical activity in your day is actually helpful for increasing that diversity of that good gut bacteria. So it's doing a lot of different things. So I do encourage people to be thinking about these different lifestyle changes that they can start with, and just little small goals. You don't have to change everything overnight. Something little that you can work on in these different categories. Adequate hydration. Hydration is essential for just adequate digestion. And so, of course, digestion and our gut health, right? They're very connected. And so making sure that you're, always I constantly have my water bottle. And I was laughing with someone the other day because it's really bright. It's bright green. I see it everywhere. Where's my water bottle? Well, there it is. It's very noticeable. And that really helps me. It's finding these little tricks that really help you with some of these changes. I like doing that with people. I think that's a fun thing to try to help people with. Limiting alcohol, maybe if you're a smoker and you're thinking about quitting smoking, and that's something that you want some accountability with. And just, you've probably heard this, but just the overuse of antibacterial products is actually not helpful for keeping our good bacteria on our skin as prevalent. And so that's something that, you can kind of work towards too. We probably did a lot of damage during those COVID years, didn't we? But that was necessary. I feel like we definitely needed that. Anyway, so those are some things to think through when we're working on positive ways of helping with our microbiome diversity. Okay, we are going to get into a discussion on prebiotics and probiotics next. All right, guys. So maybe you've heard these terms before, but maybe you're kind of like, I still don't really understand this. Like I said, prebiotics, if you can really just think of it as these are fiber-rich food sources that help feed our good bacteria, okay? So think of it as the food. They stimulate the growth and the activity of that good bacteria. And some ways that they help maintain a healthy gut is by promoting that beneficial bacteria, of course. They help to control inflammation, as we kind of talked about that briefly there at the beginning. I also mentioned just aiding with nutrient absorption in the gut, how important that is. They help regulate blood sugar, create less blood sugar spikes. So when you saw that list of chronic conditions and diseases, you saw type 2 diabetes on there. So when we don't eat a lot of fiber in our diet, and also eating lots of processed foods and high sugar foods over time, that can certainly lead to a chronic condition like type 2 diabetes. So eating more of these beneficial bacteria, or excuse me, more of these beneficial fibers, that's really going to be helpful. So you've heard me talk about fiber before in general. I did a presentation on that months back. But fiber is basically going to just slow down the digestion of the carbohydrate. Okay, and so it's really important to have that into the foods that you're eating, especially if you are sensitive to blood sugar spikes. If you have any type of insulin resistance, or you have prediabetes or diabetes, these are foods that I'm highly encouraging these individuals, as well as everyone. Everyone, no matter what, if you have diabetes or you don't, I would want you to be eating fiber on a regular basis. It can even help with bone health, as these fiber-rich foods can aid with calcium absorption. So lots of good things going on here just by eating more fruits and vegetables. All right. So let's talk about probiotics, and then we'll get into some examples of both of these. So again, probiotics, as I've already mentioned, are those live microorganisms. They're found in fermented foods specifically, and when administered, will help with the addition of healthy gut bacteria. All right. So these foods, and they overlap, right? Like prebiotics and probiotics overlap ways in which they help the gut. But probiotics can be really helpful with improving digestion, enhancing your immune function, also reducing inflammation. They can be very helpful for the prevention and treatment of diarrhea, especially post antibiotics. You guys have probably heard this before. And that's actually one of the times where I'm pretty consistent with my recommendations on taking a probiotic supplement is post antibiotic, as well as getting more probiotic rich foods too. It can aid with any IBS symptoms that you might have if this is something that you are diagnosed with, and it can support that mental health. So helping with those neurotransmitter productions that we talked about there before in the beginning. All right, so circling back to prebiotics for a second. These are some sources here, okay? So take a peek at the list. Maybe there's some things that you've had, maybe there's some things that you've not had. So I'm featuring dandelion greens today in my salad. And so this is something that maybe you guys have not had before. It's a bitter green. It's kind of similar to arugula. But when paired with the proper types of foods, kind of like arugula, when you pair it with certain things, it really does kind of help balance out that bitterness with some of the other flavors that are involved. So if you've never tried dandelion greens, I of course would love for you to try those out with this recipe that I have today. Garlic. So maybe you guys are like, yes, I definitely do garlic. I love garlic. You could put garlic on anything, right? Lots of garlic today with the dressing that I'm making. Legumes, I'm very much someone who is a fan of adding beans to lots of things. And I think we don't eat enough beans. So that's something that I'm really encouraging people to eat more of. So I'm excited to feature some of the cannellini beans that are on the salad today. There's red onion in the salad today too. You'll see lots of things, bananas, berries, flaxseeds. Maybe you're adding some of these already into your day, but maybe there's some things that you've never tried, like I said, and maybe that's something that we want to explore. Because as I mentioned, the variety factor is really important. Well, when you think about it, right? When we eat a variety of these good food sources that help promote the growth and maintenance and development of these good bacteria, it makes sense that we'd have more of a variety of those too, right? So that's kind of the whole basis behind why we want that variety in the mix. Okay, let's talk about some tips to add more of these prebiotics to your diet. First thing that when someone comes and sees me for the first time, one of the first things that I like to ask them is, are they eating fruits and vegetables? I know that it's very popular to come see a dietitian and all you do is talk about counting calories, tracking macros and all of that. And sometimes that maybe has a time and a place, right? But I feel there's not a whole lot of connection, in my opinion, to just doing that, right? So we need to talk about specifics. And one of the things that I want to know about is how many fruits and vegetables you're eating. So I'm very realistic too with, expectations. I'm not a drill sergeant. I am not a food police. I am someone that's just trying to help you. I'm trying to get you to connect with these changes, because if you don't connect with them, you're not going to continue, right? So adding more fruits and vegetables to your diet is number one. Of course, other high fiber foods, these prebiotic fibers that I just showed you a list of, beans, whole grains, those types of things. Yes, I want to challenge you to add some more of those too. But simply just having variety in your fruits and vegetables could be a good challenge. And I want to challenge you guys today to leave here and look and see what your variety is with fruits and vegetables. Okay. Look at a list. We have a good grocery list that I could share with you guys as I'm sitting here thinking through that. I love it for the fact that you can look at vegetables, look at fruits, and you just see a big list of them. And you know how it goes when you get in that rut of making your grocery list or going to the grocery store, you get the same 3 or 4 things. You just rotate through them. I'm very guilty of this. So it's really helpful for me to see a big list also. So I will pass that along and get that sent out to you guys. So making a little mental note, writing that down also. Anyway, I challenge you to maybe try 1 or 2 new things that you haven't had in a while. This is a really fun time of year to do it too, because it's fun to go to the farmer's market. It's just, there's lots of things in season that maybe you haven't had in a while. So I think that that could be really fun. Work up to that challenge of trying to strive for 20 different types of fruits and vegetables in a week. I bet you could do it. I do, but I think you have to start where you're at and work slowly up to that too. Maybe we're including a fruit or a vegetable as a snack each day. This is something that I've been telling people to do if you get really munchy before dinner. Bring out a veggie tray. Maybe it's something that you kind of just put together simply on your own. I've been really obsessed with, why is the brand escaping me? You can find it anywhere though. Harris Teeter's where I got it. It's a carrot sriracha hummus. Ooh, it is so good. And I just chop up a bunch of vegetables, put them in a Tupperware. You guys heard me say this before, but my little trick for myself and for others is to have it in a clear see-through container, eyes view of the refrigerator. Forget those little drawers where the vegetables go to die. Keep them in front of you, take them out, have some before dinner. You can already check part of your veggie off for your meal, and it keeps you away from other munchy stuff, right? So that's a fun way of including a fruit or a vegetable maybe as a snack. You can incorporate beans into salads like we're going to do today. So I'll show you how to do that, which is very simple. I love adding a complex carbohydrate like that that has fiber and protein. So it just keeps you full longer. I have people that'll come see me and they're, trying to eat more salads. And I also tell people you don't have to eat salads when you're trying to make these healthy lifestyle changes, unless you really like them, right? I don't want you to eat things you don't like. But when it comes to a salad, sometimes we're just having chicken and lettuce and veggies, and we don't have any other carbohydrate to it. So adding things like today, I'm going to add some sweet potato and I'm going to add some beans and even a little bit of quinoa. So it's really a really nice balanced salad that honestly could be eaten just as is and doesn't need to have any extra protein to it. But beans are a great additional source of protein and fiber too. The prebiotic sodas, I'll go ahead and just say, I am someone who is going to really want you to get stuff from food first. These are kind of nice though, if you're a soda gal or guy, right? So it really can be a lower sugar alternative, and it's certainly not going to be this magic fix. There's actually, some things kind of circulating around right now saying that they're not providing that benefit that people are thinking that they're providing. And it kind of makes sense, right? It's kind of like this quick fix thing where we have this prebiotic soda every day and we don't have to do anything else, right? So there's that. It's really important that you're focused on getting these good prebiotic fiber sources from food. That's where I want you to go first. And then, hey, add a lower sugar soda alternative like one of these prebiotic sodas on the side to maybe help with that carbonation fix, or, to get you away from the sugary soda. Okay, so let's talk about probiotics, as I know this one can be a little bit trickier for people to get in. Yogurt, of course, that's a really great one. Yogurt can be tricky though. So I talk to people about sugar because when we have a lot of added sugars, it can kind of do the reverse of what we want it to do. We're still getting probiotics, but we're also getting added sugars. So we want to be mindful of that because there's so many different types of yogurts out there, right? Kefir is a probiotic-rich fermented milk. And so I think that this is great just kind of as an addition to a smoothie. So I feel like if you've never tried it before, that would be a really good place to try it. You guys have probably heard of kombucha. Kombucha is a fermented carbonated beverage, and there's lots of different flavors. It can definitely have a lot of sugar to it, so you do need to be careful with that. One thing that I do tell people though is having just a little bit, 4 ounces, 5 ounces in a day can be helpful alongside some other probiotic rich foods. And yeah, maybe we're just kind of looking at the added sugars, and if we're really not getting a lot of added sugars from other places, maybe that's okay then, right? So I think it's just about understanding that that can be a beverage that has a little bit more sugar associated with it. Sauerkraut and kimchi, these are, I think an acquired taste for some people. I get for some, they're like, that is a no, I'm not doing that. Get that. Miso, maybe you've had miso soup, people might like that. Tempeh. These are things that, again, you don't know you don't like it unless you try it, right? So I just challenge you guys to kind of try 1 or 2 new things after this presentation. Tips on adding some more probiotics to your diet. So adding that Greek yogurt for breakfast or a snack. I love yogurt in the afternoon. I think it has a great balance of protein and carbohydrate. You've probably heard that term, afternoon slump. It is a thing. Our blood sugars start to dip in the afternoon. We've been awake for a really long period of time. We have a couple hours left of work. We're mentally drained. There's a lot of reasons why we kind of start to think about sugar and start to think about, cravings kind of peak in or creep in. So I usually recommend a yogurt with maybe some nuts, maybe a little fruit. I feel like it's a great blood sugar balancing snack, high protein, and a way to add some probiotics to your day. Adding that kefir to smoothies, that could be something that you give a go. Maybe we experiment with fermented foods like those pickled veggies. Having kimchi is kind of fun. I love it. Like little stir fry, maybe you throw it on a salad. Again, just exploring these flavors. I also want to throw out there that if you are not used to having a lot of fiber in your diet and foods like this, you do want to kind of ease into it a little bit. Instead of just going out there after, I would hate for anyone to go out there and just kind of go really gung-ho with all of this and just eat tons of fiber. I love the ambition, but you do want to be mindful that it is potentially can cause, a little gas, a little bloating, things like that when your digestive tract is not used to this type of food. It doesn't mean that you can't get it used to it. You just got to ease into it a little bit. So that's something that we talk about too in sessions to kind of help you understand that a little bit more. Okay, so dietary supplements, again, just going to briefly overview this. This is certainly a topic to be discussed in a visit with your healthcare provider. It's too complex to really deep dive in, a question answer session. However, when it comes to the pros of them, we definitely have a time and a place where, or I have a time and a place when I recommend them. And we have dietitians that we work with that work at Lifestyle that are really knowledgeable about these types of supplements. However, I usually will recommend that people kind of seek food out first. That's just my personal preference, unless, they have certain GI conditions, IBS, Crohn's. There's been some research behind probiotics with those types of digestive concerns, convenience for those who maybe have a hard time getting probiotic foods in. Maybe you just really have a hard time with that. Maybe that's an option for you then. And it can restore that gut health balance post antibiotics. As I mentioned before, that can be a really helpful tool. And then just some of the cons is effectiveness varies. I mean, there's like 1,000 different types of probiotics out there, y'all. So, I mean, come on, and as I mentioned in the beginning, we all have different makeups of what our microbiome is like. So-and-so takes a probiotic, doesn't mean it's going to work for you just because it worked for them. All right. So it really is important, and they're expensive. So, I mean, it really is one of those things. It might not work. I would give it at least 30 days to see if it's helping. You might have some side effects like gas or bloating. That is something that can exist. But bottom line, as I mentioned, best to get from food as much as possible. Seek out supplements always with the help of your healthcare provider. Do not just internet search, ooh, looks great, click, buy. Don't do that. It is not necessary. You need to talk to your primary or a GI or us, or, you need to have a conversation with someone about that. Okay, lots of references here. You guys can kind of peek through if you're into that. And we're going to get into this salad. That'll be really pretty quick, but lots of fun stuff that, will be on it. So I'm going to get situated here and regroup for a second. Okay. And I'm gonna sharing that. Okay. And if there's any volume issues, just let me know. I'm gonna just adjust my computer here for a second so you guys can get a better view of what I'm doing. All right. Woo, there's my water bottle. Okay. So I'm going to slide my cutting board over. The first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to cut up some dandelion greens. Okay. So that is the green of choice. However, I also have, I'm going to show you guys what they look like. All right. So that's what these dandelion greens look like. As I mentioned, they're very similar to arugula, but I also have some spinach that I'm going to throw and mix together, because you can certainly get your taste buds adapted to a green that maybe you've not had before. And if this is a little too bitter to you, then use a little of it and kind of complement it with another green. So I'm going to put about a cup of it, and I'm just going to cut this up really quickly. Is there a question that I can answer while I'm cutting these up?
Let's see. Somebody asked, would you have to take a supplement to reset your gut, or could using the recommended foods be enough?
You could, so I mean, resetting the gut is a very popular term. But yes, the right prescription here of food to supplement ratio. I can't really give that exactly. But I would say if anyone is trying to just improve their gut health, I would really push food first and see if we're noticing some positive symptoms that are occurring. Digestion is better, feeling less bloated. It might be a conversation about certain things that they're experiencing, to kind of have a comparison to how they're feeling, a few weeks later. A lot of people might say they feel and they have more energy. There's lots of things that you might notice just by simply eating healthier foods in your diet. But yes, a supplement may be helpful, but again, it just depends on that person, what they have going on medically. But no, I would not just recommend someone take a probiotic just to take it. I would have them focus on food first, unless there's other things going on.
Awesome. Thank you. So
Yeah.
a couple people are asking, where did you get your dandelion greens?
I did get these at Whole Foods, so health food store. So they are kind of a bit more obscure, a little harder to find sometimes. So that is like a pop in maybe for a couple of things. Luckily, if you're someone that doesn't frequent Whole Foods, or maybe we check out a farmer's market, that's kind of what I would recommend. But yes, that is where I got them at Whole Foods.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, so
okay.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, if you're ready, then
Yep. I'll pivot to the next step and then I'll take that next question.
great.
All right, guys. So I'm just going to be throwing everything on my plate here, and then I'll show you what it looks like, of course, after, when it's all put together. I'm going to just pick up the rest of these. I like my lettuce finely chopped. You guys can chop your lettuce however you like it. But I have a cup of dandelion greens here, and I'm going to put a cup of spinach to go along with it. So all in all, you have 2 cups of greens. I'm not really going to measure this, you guys. I'm just going to kind of plop it down. A handful is typically about a cup. All right. So bed of greens. I'm going to move this over to the side for a second. Okay, the next thing we're going to add to this plate is going to be a half a cup of broccoli. And I'm getting very specific with measurements here. This is not, I'm going to be real, this is not how I make a salad. I just put things on it. But sometimes it's nice for you to kind of be aware of what does a serving size of all of this look like? What does the salad look like after? You know, this is going to be a big, hearty, you know, filling salad. Okay. So this isn't a side salad. I'm going to do a half a cup of just some broccoli florets, just some raw broccoli. All right, so I'm gonna dump that on there and just spread them out. I love making salads. I don't know if you guys love making salads, but I love them. I love putting all kinds of different things on them in all different colors. I think they're so pretty. That's what makes them fun for me to continue to eat. I don't eat them every day because you will burn out on them. And I like to vary up how I eat them and what I put on them because that makes them more interesting. And again, we're getting more protein. Okay, Sierra, I can take another question.
Okay, a couple folks are wondering, when you cook vegetables, does it kill off the probiotics or prebiotics?
I mean, there are certain things about vegetables that retain nutrients a little bit differently. And so sure, but I don't ever get into that with people. I think that's too difficult. If we're constantly in our heads about, uh-oh, well, if I do this with it, then did that. What the best thing that I can say for you all is to get a variety of cooked and raw vegetables on a regular basis, and you'll have everything covered so that you're not having to micromanage every little detail. But yes, I mean, there are certain things that I would say, just all in all, with vegetables, cooking them might bring their nutrients out a little bit more. Eating them raw might be a little bit better, but I just don't really focus on that too much with people. I think just eating more fruits and vegetables is a good enough thing to focus on, right? So we just don't do enough of that as a whole. So, what other questions? Anything else?
Let's see here. Someone's asking, what are your recommendations for getting prebiotics and probiotics if they have a severely restrictive diet? Things like, you know, if you've had bariatric surgery or something like that.
Well, I'm going to be honest, that's a pretty individualized question. I mean, that would be something that I would need to talk with this person, you know, hey, what you got going on? What don't you tolerate? Because everybody that's had bariatric surgery doesn't exactly not tolerate foods like someone, you know, everyone's a little bit different. So it sounds like, you know, maybe I encourage you guys, listen, I know you want to get, and I'm happy to help answer a lot of questions during this, but I do think like having a sit down with someone, with a dietitian to really help kind of understand, foods and what would be best for you is really helpful. But yeah, it's really hard to get into that, I think, over this quick demo today. I'm
Yes.
sorry. All right, guys, real quick, I'm going to add a half a cup of these cannellini beans. And again, I'm just going to kind of spread them out. You can change it up and put a different bean here. If you want to do black beans or chickpeas or, you know, lots of different options, right? So please lentils, that would be another really good one. So this one's featuring the cannellini, and I love the way that those taste. Next thing I'm going to add. So I've roasted some sweet potato. Now, if you've not roasted sweet potato, I've clearly got them chopped up into small little squares here. You can get them pre-cut if you want to go that route. But
I'm having just a little trouble hearing you, Katie.
okay, thank you. Okay, can you guys hear me better now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, perfect. So what I normally like to do is I just get a really small sweet potato, chop it up, roast it at 400 with just a little bit of olive oil. I put a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, but not a lot. Really simple. And I love adding sweet potatoes to salads. So it's a great way of adding that fiber, that complex carbohydrate. It keeps you full longer. And then, of course, when you have roasted vegetables laying around, you can add them to anything. You can put them in your eggs. You can just do that's kind of how I like to do it, I guess. Speaking of sweet potato, I love to just add any type of leftover roasted vegetable into eggs in the morning to boost my fiber there. So I'm going to put about a half a cup And I'm gonna dump it and then just kind of sprinkle it with my hands, and then I'll show you guys what it looks like. Okay. Getting prettier. Okay. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is put some red onion, and that was one of those other prebiotic rich fibers that we talked about. I'm going to do, let's see, about 1/8 a cup of the onion. You can do less than that. You can leave it out. You know, so I get red onion is strong for some people. They do not like it. It's really okay. You don't have to have it, but I'm going to put just a little bit on there. And then I'm going to spread it out so that it gets the color. What other questions?
Someone's asking, they saw Jerusalem asparagus on your list. Is this different from asparagus at the grocery store?
Yeah, that was the Jerusalem artichoke. Thank you for bringing that up. I actually completely forgot. So those are really hard to find. Yeah, so that is, they're not really in season, and they're just really hard to find. So I do not have a Jerusalem artichoke on the salad, but luckily we have lots of other things going on and lots of good fiber. So I felt like that was okay, but yeah. So it was an artichoke. So yeah, and it is different than a traditional artichoke. It's just has a little bit of a different flavor and whatnot. So, but yeah. Sorry, yeah, I don't have that. So I'm sorry I'm not featuring that today. What else? Okay. I have some quinoa, which you could add another grain if you want to. You could add brown rice. I think there was a couple more options on here, but I normally like quinoa on a salad. I don't really like brown rice, but I love the quinoa, so I'm gonna add that. This is going to do, I think, I'm gonna do around 1/4 of a cup of the quinoa. This is a great way to try quinoa if you've never had it before. Maybe you guys have had quinoa. I know it's not rare or anything, but it's something that maybe you've just not experimented with in a salad before. All right, let me show you what it's looking like. It's pretty. Okay. All right, so what's next? I am going to add, to finish it off, I think this is it, and then I'm going to make the dressing for you. A tablespoon of pumpkin seeds, which I love. And you could totally vary up the nuts that you put or the seeds that you put. I love the addition of the pumpkin seeds on a salad, though. That's a great kind of twist. So I'm just going to kind of sprinkle those over top. Now I'm going to put this over to the side and I'm going to make this dressing. Okay. If you guys have not made homemade dressings before, you need to try it because it's really easy. It normally has just a few ingredients. It's great. It leaves out a lot of sugar and salt and things that are added to pre-made salad dressings. And so I just challenge you to explore that if you've not done that before. And then you need to go on Amazon and get this cute little shaker because it's like $8 and it's awesome. So it's great for making these little homemade dressings. All right, so we are going to start with 3 tablespoons of, I'm going to just bring my ingredients over here so we don't have to keep looking back. Okay, we're going to start with 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. You could definitely use fresh lemon. I just had this and that's what I'm going to use. So 3 tablespoons. Any other questions?
Let's see here. Someone's wondering, do fresh herbs have any prebiotic or probiotic content?
No, they're not really considered a fiber, but they're anti-inflammatory, which is always great. So, you know, I know we're kind of focusing in on the prebiotic and the probiotics for all this really good gut stuff, but that doesn't mean that other foods that don't have prebiotics and probiotics also aren't really good for you and really good for your overall general health. So I love the addition of herbs and for just anti-inflammatory. So yeah. Okay, So I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of olive oil. So far we've just had 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And guys, I don't know if you've ever tried this before, but for just a quick little salad dressing, this is very kind of Mediterranean with the lemon and the olive oil, is to just drizzle some olive oil and squeeze some lemon and then just throw just a little bit of some fresh Parmesan on top. So good, so simple, and delicious. All right, so I have 2 tablespoons of olive oil in there. I am going to add in an extra clove of garlic because I love garlic. And so there's 2 cloves of garlic, not just 1. And I've just pressed it. So it's already been done. Minced. Last thing is a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, right? So that's it. Really simple, right? There's not a lot to it. I know y'all can't see my little shaker. I'll show it to you in just a second. All right. Okay. So I've got all of our ingredients in here. Make sure the top is closed. That would be a crazy situation. All right. And then we're going to shake it. Basically already done. Isn't that cool? All right. Just a little longer to make sure it's mixed in. Okay. So we're going to take, you guys know, I guess, what I'm having for lunch, right? So we have got all kinds of stuff on here. We've got 2 different types of greens. We've got those cannellini beans, that red onion. We've got that broccoli. We've got the sweet potato. What else we have? Goodness, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, yummy, yummy. I might have just missed an ingredient, but I'm going to pour just a little bit of dressing. I would imagine that I'm doing around a tablespoon and a half here. Okay. So just a quick glance of it, but yes, delicious. And it smells so good. That lemon vinaigrette just smells delightful. I really, it looks awesome. So I hope you guys try it. It looks really good. And you can make some twists to it if you want to. I do have a few minutes though. Does anyone else have any questions?
Someone was wondering if you have suggestions so that they can make a non-acidic dressing.
Just without the lemon.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Yes. I mean, just the straight olive oil, I guess, if you're not wanting vinegar. I love just a little olive oil, maybe some creamy dressings. That could be fun, using some Greek yogurt. I also love the Bolthouse Farms line too. I recommend those for people that maybe if you're kind of not into the vinaigrettes because of the acidity. That's a really good one. But yeah, you could do some Greek yogurt based dressings and kind of go that route instead. And then you're, hey, getting a little bit of that probiotic too. So kind of fun. But that's maybe the route I would tell someone to go.
Awesome. Cool. Someone's wondering, are certain oils better, like avocado versus olive oil?
They're all great for different reasons. So they're all unsaturated, like the 2 that were just mentioned are unsaturated, and some taste better in different recipes. So for those 2 specifically, I would recommend olive oil just over a salad and avocado if you're roasting, because avocado oil can maintain a higher temperature without breaking down. And actually, when the oils start to oxidize and break down, produces some unwanted chemicals actually from that. So you really should kind of just use olive oil for just some really light sauteing and doing like a salad dressing, that kind of thing. Most of the time. I mean, hey, it is what it is. Like, it's not that if you roast something with olive oil, it's the end of the world, but that's kind of one way that you can use them differently. And the avocado oil does have a little bit of a different flavor. So sometimes people just like certain oils because of their flavor profile. So
Awesome. A lot of people are interested in the little salad dressing shaker. Could
yeah,
you just repeat like where you got it, and also say how many servings of dressing you feel like that would be?
Oh my gosh, it would be a lot of servings of dressing. It's huge. Golly, it's like over a cup. So yeah, I use it just for maybe making a few servings at a time. I mean, I guess you could just leave it in the refrigerator and use it over and over again, but sometimes it's just quick what I just did, I just whip it up, whatever. But yeah, I got it off of Amazon and I think you just put in salad shaker. I don't remember exactly what it was called. I could maybe look that up and kind of send the email link over if you wanted to send it out to people, but you could also just go and search it on Amazon. But it
Awesome.
definitely holds a lot.
Yeah. A couple people were wondering a little more about the pumpkin seeds. Are they
Mhm.
plain, unsalted?
They're not unsalted. They're
Okay.
salted, guys. I'm a rebel. But yes, you can definitely get plain unsalted pumpkin seeds. So, but yes, these have a little bit, I think they're roasted. So, but yeah, yeah.
Cool. Let's see. Someone's wondering, does refrigerated minced garlic does it maintain all of the probiotic benefits?
Good question. I don't know probiotic profile of minced versus fresh. I do know, I would imagine and assume that fresh would be better. I mean, because it's been processed. So yes, I think processing strips things, strips nutrients, strips benefits. But I get it, pre-minced is so nice and convenient, but I definitely encourage fresh garlic. I for sure. That's kind of, so I think it tastes better personally. I always just quickly mince a fresh garlic clove anytime I'm going to use garlic. So.
All right. Sounds good. Well, we're a couple minutes over,
Yeah.
so I'll go ahead and let you go. Thank you so much
Okay.
for joining us and sharing
Yes.
today, and thank you all for joining us.
Yes, thank you guys. I look forward to seeing everyone in July. Stay cool out there, drink and stay hydrated too.
Yeah. See ya.
All right, bye.